Hello, this is Jake Isaac, and this is my research presentation on a new wave of nicotine addiction. This is for my English 2010 class, and this is just a little entry gateway into the new trend, or I'd say way of getting nicotine, which is through vaping. This has been going on for quite some time now, but most of my papers and stuff that I've done in the class has been based on this, and it's actually gained a lot more information on this subject by doing so. Vaping creating a new generation of nicotine users. So, as everyone knows, vaping is the new way of smoking that has kind of swept across the nation. And this is kind of just, as I see it as well as many other people, is a new way to obtain or get nicotine in a way that is more socially acceptable. According to the Stat News article by Richard Stumacher, don't know if I pronounced that right, pod mods and vaping are creating a new generation of youth addicted to nicotine. Oh, sorry, that is the name of the actual article, but the quote from the article is actually the emergence of new generations of people addicted to nicotine, many of them now in middle school, keeps me up at night. So this is something that I definitely have personal relation to, as well as know of people in middle school and high school that are actually using nicotine products. The spike in middle and high school is very alarming, as well as I have a brother that's actually 17 years old and is in high school, and he says the amount of people that are still using nicotine products, such as these vaping ones, puff bars, Juuls, is through the roof. The next slide. The main problems with this vaping issue is the lack of knowledge on long-term effects. So this is a big one that I've covered actually in my papers. Is one of the things that is actually known of a short term. I like to throw this in there because the long-term effects are actually very slim and not very accurate. Like anywhere you search for or sources, they really don't have any confirmed long-term effects. The exposure to toxins is one of them. So these are just basic toxins from inhaling water vapor or the vegetable oil glycerin that is involved in the vaping, as well as vitamin E has been known to have effects as well. But still, the effects are not very set in stone. It's more just assumptions of the effects. May have irreversible lung damage. This is something that the CDC has actually said on their website, as well as when they talk about in terms of the vaping effects. This has no direct correlation to vaping yet, but this is something they're thinking is going to happen. Shortness of breath, it should say breath, it says break in there, but shortness of breath is something that is also a short term, and cough and fever. So these are things that researchers as well as healthcare professionals have noticed from vaping, but yet again, the reason this is really alarming is it's a misunderstood problem, because there is really no direct evidence leading to vaping having any of these effects. Another main problem of vaping is the nicotine addiction. So this is a big one that I kind of targeted right in the beginning of this presentation. The youth that it's targeting in the middle and high schools. This is just a big, I'd almost say, people are using the word epidemic with the nicotine addiction, creating the new wave of people using vapor products. In the video that I'm actually going to have in the next slide or two, talks about how one Juul pod is equivalent to having 20 cigarettes in nicotine. So this, to make more sense of that, so smoking 20 cigarettes, the amount of nicotine you would get from that is the same as this one Juul pod. Higher levels of nicotine. I have experience with vaping myself actually, and the kids that are vaping, the more and more you get used to the certain level of nicotine that is in the product, you go higher and higher. And they actually sell products that are 5% nicotine, and this is in the terms of a cigarette has 17%, which is actually 1.7%, and the Juul pod, the highest amount you can get is 5%, which is 50% in terms of vaping. Lung disease is another big problem with vaping that has come up. This is something where most of the articles and scholarly sources that talk about the lung disease in relation to vaping all go back to the THC vaping devices. So this is not directed directly to vaping, but more to the THC devices being involved. But when this came out about the lung disease, I know I'm kind of rambling on this slide, but when the lung disease came out, immediately Juul was hit big. And this was something where they got rid of all the different kind of flavors and only allowed menthol tobacco, which honestly should have been the case from the beginning because they were targeting younger kids with these products. I'll go on to the next slide. The solution I'm proposing is in 3 different parts. The first part is prevent non-smokers from starting smoking. So this is a big thing, a misconception with vaping is that it is a healthy alternative to vaping, when really people are vaping that have never smoked in their entire lives. It is basically creating and targeting people that have never smoked or used nicotine. My second solution is the CDC getting more information on lung disease not related to the THC devices. So all the information online is showing just what the THC devices are doing, not actual vaping. The way that we're going to do this is direct correlation to the vaping, not the THC vapes, but the actual basic standard legalized in every state vapor products. The third solution that I'm proposing is use vape for its intended purposes. So the first vape was actually created, it started getting developed in 1927, I believe, but in 1963, the production began by Han Lik in China, I believe. It was a smokeless and tobacco-free product. So this was meant to be and intended for people to quit smoking and have a way to smoke, but didn't create any sort of tobacco or health-related issues. And this actually became to the market in the early 2000s. And my big stressor on this is just going back to using vaping for the intended purpose, which is to quit smoking, a healthy alternative to smoking, not creating a new wave of people that are addicted to nicotine or smoking. Right here I linked a video. This video kind of goes into, it really targets more of Juul, which is the #1 vapor product. This just goes over the massive effect that it has had on the youth, and as well as the advertising that it had. Taking into consideration that this did happen before the big outbreak of the lung disease. So when the lung disease hit, Juul was really bashed on and criticized against. But this video shows celebrities as well as people advertising Juul products as well as vapor products in a positive way. Very interesting, but yeah, go ahead and give that video a watch. This just kind of goes into, my main point with this slide is to kind of show that the 2 solutions that I proposed are not really at any price at all. CDC gaining more information, really diving into the lung disease part is going to be tons of money. I couldn't find anywhere of exactly how much it would cost, but it will be big amounts of money, but I honestly think it is worth it. Targeting the correct audience, targeting smokers and not people that do not smoke is really, I put less expensive, but really that has no cost at all. The original purpose, it's going to take a group effort as well as people actually paying attention to and our generation standing up and not being the next generation of smokers. Go ahead and go to the next slide here. So in conclusion, if we stand together and we take a stand against vaping, we can stop it from us being the new wave of nicotine addicts. Me being 20 years old, this is hitting our generation as well as people 3-4 years younger than us. We have to stand together and come against the new wave of nicotine as well as ways for us to get hooked on something for life. And then I have a list of sources here, but this concludes my presentation on a new wave of nicotine addiction. Again, my name is Jake Izett. Thank you for listening.